Welcome to the Speak Your Way to Cash podcast, a podcast where we teach speakers how to land paid speaking engagements and corporate contracts. Each week, we deliver high-quality content that teaches you how to level up your speaking business. Be sure to join the Speak Your Way to Cash Facebook group after having your mind blown by this information-filled episode. Now, here's your host, Ashley Kirkwood, lawyer and professional speaker. This is the Speak Your Way to Cash podcast.
Hello, so it's Ashley Kirkwood with the Speak Your Way to Cash podcast. I also own Mobile General Counsel, the law firm for business owners building big brands. And today we're talking about the real reason you haven't booked that large speaking engagement and the mental shifts that are needed in order to book paid corporate speaking engagements. And one of the things that I wanted to cover, and I'm doing this 4 days in a row, 4-day series for the Sunrise Speaker Series for a couple of reasons. One, I'm waking up early this week because this is my last official week in the office before I take holiday break. And two, these topics will also be on the Speak Your Way to Cash podcast, which is for entrepreneurs and thought leaders and experts who are looking to book paid engagements. So feel free to ask me your questions. Let me know if you'd like to come on stage after I cover this content. So number one, I have spoken with literally thousands of speakers this year. Our podcast has reached 20,000 speakers, and I get a ton of emails from people who are like, okay, I really want to get paid to speak. Where do I get started? What should I do first? How do I land these contracts? Everyone that comes to me to speak right now isn't paying. And the first thing that I think people need to understand about booking paid engagements and the first mental shift that needs to be made is going from the shift that it's possible, like it's possible theoretically, to it's possible for me. And I think that shift is really important because once you realize that something is possible, not just in theory, but it's possible for you, you end up acting very differently. And the way that you approach it, the way that you prepare for it is very, very, very different. So for a lot of people who say they want to get paid to speak and they're trying to figure out how to do it, one of the things that keeps people stuck is that they don't really believe that it's possible for them. And if they do believe it's possible for them, they haven't made the determination or the decision that they're willing and ready to put in the work that is required to actually get the result that they want. So in terms of helping you guys who are listening to this and or watching it and or on Clubhouse this morning, hearing it live, I want you all to hear some of the results, some of the things that will help you understand how it's possible for you, even now during a pandemic, during everything that's going on with the world, because 2020 is a different year. It threw us for a bit of a loop in terms of how we approach our clients, even in this time. So here's the thing. I just heard about a $3 million contract for speaking that the government had to offer. So it was a $3 million speaking contract. You had to put in a bid. So you had to go through like the government contracting process to get it. But the fact is there was a $3 million contract for communication and speaking. Recently, we landed a large pharmaceutical client who's looking for us to start off doing one engagement virtually, and then we're expanding into fulfilling more obligations under our proposal. We just had a client that proposed a $70,000 engagement, and the client is starting off with $20,000 that engagement, and then allowing them to move on and get larger engagements and do things like that. So even now, it is possible to land speaking engagements and to get, corporate clients and to do all of that. So it's still happening. It's not something that is a phase or, no one's hiring and all of that. So that's the first thing. Not just it's possible, but it's possible for you. Okay. And then the second thing that I think you all need to consider and that I want you all to consider is your past as it relates to speaking does not determine your future. So you can literally go from I've never booked a paid engagement to booking $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 speaking engagements. And the way that shift looks and what happens when you make that shift, or the reason people have been able to do that I've worked with, is they just get the confidence to start pitching bigger engagements. So they stop pitching and they stop positioning themselves only for unpaid engagements, but they start focusing on those engagements that pay. And I think the important part there is the whole focusing part. A lot of individuals that I know and that I meet who are in the speaking world, there's two parts. They don't position themselves for paid engagements. So they've everything in their speaker's reel, if they have one at all, and everything on their website screams like I speak for free. So you've spoken at events where, it's not necessarily corporate events. You don't necessarily have that background, which isn't required, by the way, but you're pretty much positioning yourself for the free engagement. Or when someone asks you to speak and they ask for your rate or they ask for your website and they ask for, video footage of you speaking, either you don't have it or your website just doesn't speak to that audience. And there's ways to overcome that without going out and spending a ton of money on a new website, etc. But you do want to make sure that you're at least positioning yourself to speak. Okay. All right. And then I'm kind of seeing your requests, but then they go away really quickly. So let me make sure I get you all up for questions for those of you all that have questions. Just so you know, this is two-pronged. So this discussion will be on my podcast, and then it'll also, it's not in my Facebook group. Typically, it would be in my Facebook group as well, which is the Speak Your Way to Cash Facebook group, but it will be on my podcast. All right. Okay. So then there's that. Now, in order for you to go and position yourself to get paid to speak by these corporate audiences, you want to have a couple of things. One, you want to make sure you have a pitch strategy to consistently invite them to work with you. And then two, when they do work with you, you want to make sure that you have something that they can forward to their team or their superiors to bring you in. Depending on who you're speaking to, almost every corporate audience or corporate client that you pitch is going to have to go and get consensus from a variety of other people. Even if they like you and they'd like to bring you in, there's typically some consensus that they have to get from others. So you want to make sure that whatever you send them, they're able to easily forward it. And that thing sells you without you being in the room. Whether that's a video pitch with examples of you speaking, whether that's a PDF that has a lot of your testimonials and things from other people who've said you've done a great job, whether it's a TEDx talk or something. I always pitch with my TEDx talk, to be honest. And then I have a proposal that lays out the topics that I'm going to cover, the learning objectives that I'm going to cover, and also testimonials from members of the audience and also the client. So I think that, when you're thinking about testimonials and positioning, you want to have those testimonials from someone in the audience, just like whether it's employees or students, if you're talking to colleges or high schools, but also that administrator or HR director or CMO that brings you in. So you want to have both of those things. But then the other part that I talked about is not just positioning yourself, but focusing on landing those engagements. I think focus is really important, and it's something that can be a little bit more challenging than easier said than done on the focusing tip. So definitely wanted to put those things out there. So not just realizing, so for those of you who just joined the room, to reset the room before we bring folks up, my name is Ashley Kirkwood, host of the Speak Your Way to Cash podcast. We're talking about the mental shifts that need to be made in order for you to land those large corporate contracts. And the first one that we covered was not just that it's possible, but it's possible for you. That for you is critical, because when you believe something's possible for you, you'll actually move from thinking about an idea to moving towards it and actually taking deliberate action. The other thing that we talked about was making sure that not only are you positioning yourself, but you're also ensuring that you are focusing on landing those engagements and landing those corporate contracts. And then the last thing that you want to make sure that you're doing is actually, well, we talked about this a little bit earlier too, actually inviting people to work with you on a consistent basis. So inviting people to work with you on a consistent basis. And the biggest mindset shift there is going to be regardless of where you started from, you actually have the ability to, you don't have to start at the bottom and work your way up in the speaking world. You can literally start at the top and then help someone up from the bottom. So that looks like starting off, not pitching for one-off $2,000, $3,000 engagements, but going in with a $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 or $100,000 corporate proposal that the client can grow into over time. All right, so we have Kim on the stage. If other people have questions, let me know. If you're listening to this on a podcast and you're like, okay, well, I want to ask questions, then make sure that you email your questions into Ashley at ashleynicolekirkwood.com, and I'll try to answer them on the next show. So the question that we got is, how do you, after a career move, how are you able to continue to get paid to speak? So one of the things that I always recommend to answer that question, one of the things that I always recommend when people are trying to get started in the professional speaking space is you have to realize what type of business model you want to have with speaking. There's a lot of different ways to make money from speaking. I teach a particular way. I'm in the traditional paid speaker market, which means I get on stage. If I hit the stage, I'm getting paid for the most part, unless I'm doing some marketing event or something like that. If that's your goal, to get paid to speak, a couple of things you need. One, you want to have a really clearly defined expertise. So that means of all the things that you've done, what is the one or two things that you want to teach people how to do that will transform their life? And then of the people that you want to teach, who can pay you? because I think a lot of people want to speak, to help people. And like some people have missions like, oh, I want to help teenage girls to become better at whatever, I don't know. We want to help them have more confidence. And that's great. Teenage girls that lack confidence, though, don't have budgets. So you need to figure out, all right, if that's the audience that I want to help, that's my end goal. Where are those girls at? What organizations do they live at? Where are they? Like, are they in school? Are they in college? Where are they? And then who can pay me to do that initiative? And so after you figure out who can pay you, then you have to figure out what is their end goal. Because although colleges, I'm sure, will be like, oh, it's cool if our kids have confidence. What do they really want? They really want high attendance rates so that their budget from the state isn't cut. They really want to make sure that their students graduate because that affects their funding. And they want to make sure that they can go on to be successful so that inevitably the long game is they can come back, be successful alum and give money to the school. So everyone's self-interested. And so you have to figure out, of the people that you want to help, what are you going to teach them? And then what's unique about what you teach them so that they're willing to pay you? Because what I find is that speakers do things, people who like to speak or want to share their story will often speak at places, A, that don't have budgets, 2, that don't pay them, and then 3, they have topics that everyone else can talk on, which means it's not, you get into like the commodity market. So you're a speaker, but you're like, oh, I do leadership or I do storytelling. And it's like, okay, cool. But if they found you for leadership or storytelling, they also found 75,000 other people that do the exact same thing. So the way that you brand yourself has to be in a way that is like, you're going to brand your trademarkable method for getting girls from low self-esteem to rock stars or whatever it is. So you really want to identify how are you doing it differently. And then you just have to invite them to work with you on a consistent basis I have a whole like sales strategy that I use, but in that we teach people in like our courses and the academy that I run for speakers. But I do recommend that if you're interested in getting paid to speak, that you first really lock down of all the things that you've done, what's the common thread? Because it sounds like you have a lot of different areas that you can speak on because your background is diverse, but all of it may have required one soft skill that you've mastered. And that could be your guiding light for breaking back into the market. And then you're going to present that to people versus, because I heard you say that when you were on television, they would just invite you to come and host events. And one of the things you said was they don't have the money. And that's very true in some instances, but these school districts do have the money. And I'll tell you, I just was requested to speak at a school like January 2nd. It was on a Sunday. And they were like, well, we only have, a couple $1,000s in our budget. And I'm like, okay, well, obviously I can't speak for that rate because it's on a Sunday and it's like, you don't have a budget. So I'm out. But that said, I do have this program. I'm like, but all of our programs start at $25,000. And they were like, okay, well, we don't have our one little department can't afford that, but we have a network of schools. And so if you were to bring that in at a higher level, we could talk about your programs that we could afford because we're actually looking to do X, Y, and Z. Now, had all I heard was you have a $2,000 budget and I'd not even presented the higher offerings that we have to them, they would not have, like that contract wouldn't have closed. And so I think it's really important that we don't allow, because once we meet people who don't have budgets, I think what starts to happen and what I see in my clients who I'm working with on speaking is they're like, oh, so many people have told me, no, there's no money out here for this. When it's like, no, there's money out there, but you have to position it to the people with money. Like me, I always say, I don't sell to people without money. So I'm not selling to students. Like they're not my ideal audience. I wrote a book called The Law School Hustle. It has amazing reviews. My book has helped so many students go from like lower ranked law schools to the top law schools in the country and land $300,000 jobs. Like the testimonials on my book alone are ridiculous. But it's for law students. However, when I sell that program, I'm going to St. Louis University. The law school is the one that brings me in, even though my mission, my heart is to help really diverse law students get paid after going to law school. So I think you are like focusing on leadership, focusing on women, on girls, teenage girls and students is a really big market and there's definitely funds for it. But I would be developing relationships with superintendents and principals on the high school level and then, directors of college programming on the college level and maybe even chancellors and some really influential professors up there as well. Thank you so much.
Hey guys, I want to come in really quickly and tell you all about the Speak Your Way to Cash course. This course is for speakers who are looking to consistently book paid speaking engagements. In short, if you are ready to speak your way to cash, this is the course you need. There are over 17 17 modules. You heard that right, 17, that cover getting clarity in your speaking career, branding through the press, a 7-figure sales panel, selecting your niche and finding engagement, selling your signature speech and building it out, onboarding and offboarding clients, implementation and taking it to the next level. And then let me tell you about the 10 bonus trainings that encompass the 17 trainings that you're going to get. The bonus trainings cover things like branding as a speaker, the best tools for finding engagements, determining whether a topic is viable, speech writing for success, speaking techniques, self-publishing for speakers, sales success, landing association and college clients, navigating the conference market, and so much more. You even get the exact pitch templates that I use to land college clients over and over again, and the press pitch templates that I use. So look, you can get this course by going to ashleynicolekirkwood.com/SYWTC course. ashleynicolekirkwood.com/SYWTC course. Or just enter Ashley Kirkwood Speak Your Way to Cash course in Google and it should come right up. Thanks guys for listening. Let's get back to this interview.
Yeah, I mean, you really hit the nail on the head in your question. Your rate is based on your confidence more so than your competence. That said, you really need to show up and show out. So I guess a direct answer to your question will be, and I can give you some averages, if you're doing like one-off engagements, the college, junior colleges are typically, they're used to seeing rates anywhere from $1,500 to $2,500. Colleges are used to seeing rates anywhere from $3,500 to $6,500. Corporations are used to seeing anywhere from $3,500 to $7,500 on the like one-off workshop lens. Sometimes it's higher, like $10,000. And then if you're doing a corporate keynote, then they are used to seeing rates $10,000 and above. Those are just generals though. Like I could say that, but honestly, there are some corporations that only have a $2,000 budget. And it's not that the corporation has a $2,000 budget. Corporations, similar to colleges, similar to high schools, all have their own departments that make up their budget. High schools are unique and nonprofits are unique in that they have different money set aside for different things. So I have a book and I may have a college that's like, all we have is $3,000, but we can get your fee to $15,000 because we can buy 500 books at full rate. You don't always have to discount your book. I know some people do that like bulk pricing and I've done that on a sliding scale, but my book is like $30. So, I mean, a sliding scale, you still got to pay $25. So there's always different ways to package those things. But the other thing that I would mention is like, you don't have to start with just $3,000 to $5,000 anyways. You could start pitching them $60,000, $70,000 proposals, but within that proposal, you'll have different components. And they may say, okay, I can't do the whole thing right now, but I'd be willing to bring you in for that one-off presentation to start. And if that goes well, then we have another conversation. So I think the topic that I'm talking about Thursday is the one thing that successful speakers do that's more important than selling. And that'll be Thursday, 6 a.m. here. And we're going to cover some of the other things that you can do. But to be honest, what I recommend, depending on your seriousness with it, you should, like, we have a program called Speak Your Way to Cash Academy. Anyone in here can click the link in my bio and apply to join the academy. And through applying, you'll actually get to watch a private training where I break down the paid method that I use and that my speakers use to land these 4, 5, and 6-figure corporate contracts. And it really breaks a lot of our methodology down. And then you can see whether the academy works for you. The biggest thing that I see is this industry can take a lot of time to learn and you can waste a lot of money and you'll squander a lot of opportunities because you'll be doing it alone. If you really want to get paid to speak, you should hire a coach. I'm sure everyone here has heard that before because we're business owners and business owners invest. It's close to the end of the year, so investing now is good. I've invested now for next year. But if you know, like, this is something that not just is possible, but it's possible for you, you want guidance, you don't want to Google your way to success, then you should apply to join the academy. It is an investment, obviously, because we're teaching you how to land these 5 and 6-figure contracts and put them together, etc. But that's going to be the way that you don't, because I feel like what most people need is someone to say, no, that rate's too low. This is where you should go in at, and it's totally okay. That said, if you go in at a higher rate, some clients may say, oh, I don't want to work with you. And honestly, that's a good thing. I think that you should get comfortable. This is the other mindset thing. All money is not it's not that it's not good money. It's just that it's not your money. All money isn't your money. So if someone offers me $3,000 to do something and I decline, I can't be, sitting at home crying over $3,000 when my goal is to land a $75,000 or $150,000 contract. It wasn't until I was willing to walk away from those small time-wasting engagements. And I say time-wasting because I'm one person, I have limited capacity, that I could really focus on those clients that have the propensity to grow into six-figure engagements over time. The real mistake that I see speakers make is always chasing new clients versus recycling and overserving the clients that they have. Our firm this year, my law firm, not the speaking side of the business, but our law firm really survived and grew our revenue 200% by serving the clients we served year one. So it wasn't that we, went out and got all these new clients. We just focused on the clients that we already knew were thriving and were growing. And it's the same for speaking. I had like maybe 5 speaking clients this year that made 10 times more in my speaking business than last year because I ensured that I was going to serve them. So would you rather, like year one, we had 50 speaking clients. We made the same amount with those 50 that we made with 10 because we repackaged all of our offering. We added licensing, we added monthly retainers, we added different ways to serve them. So the value of those contracts was all over the 5-figure mark versus my first year when I would do, my first year speaking rather, when I would do all types of, I would go travel 20 miles, I don't know, not 20 miles, that's too short, but I would travel like 5-10 hours to go and speak for $5,500. One of the things that we teach and that I recommend is that you don't just start doing a whole lot of other stuff so that because you don't want to make it to like now you're doing all this extra work for more. So if the work you do is the same as what you did before for that money, it doesn't really work. So yeah, we did add some stuff, but we made sure that it was packaged in a way where we weren't overburdened, like working all these extra hours either. So the question that we received is, what is speaking? Speaking covers a wide variety of things. But when I'm talking about getting paid to speak, I'm talking about a company or other organization paying you to either get on stage as a keynote or deliver a workshop or deliver some type of a presentation that walks them through a proprietary process to achieve a result that they're interested in. So it's a little bit more formal. And then and that's the business model that I work within primarily. I also do some selling from the stage. So I don't do a lot of this, but there are times when I will have a partner, like a brand partner, and they have a big audience, I have a big audience. And so we collaborate together and I don't ask for them to pay me, but I make an offer at the end and then I get paid for making that particular offer. So there are some speakers, professional speakers, that their entire business model is based upon selling from the stage. And that is also speaking. That's also a part of the marketplace. And there's a few, I'm doing a talk with Quinn. I don't want to butcher her last name, but I'm doing a talk with Quinn next week. And we're going to talk about that because she really focuses on that. And I focus on getting paid before I hit the stage. That said, you can also get paid before you hit the stage and still make an offer at the end. There's ways to do that as well. So that's kind of how I define speaking. But there are a lot of different ways. Like you can host your own events and speak at those. And that can be a great stream of revenue. It just depends on how it fits into your bigger business model. In terms of marketing for speakers, one, there's a lot of different ways you can do it. The way that I recommend speakers promote themselves. Okay. I'm not going to use any formal marketing lingo because that's not what I do. I would recommend you get Audria's book, Uncloned Marketing, for that. And it's like for all the terminology and like developing out your marketing strategy. What I teach speakers how to do is how to position yourself in front of the people who have the ability to pay you. One of the things that is powerful in doing this is by utilizing the press. And I have a whole methodology called the paid method. The way that one of my speakers went from $20,000, the speakers that we work with, to $200,000 in a year. First year she did 20, second year she did 200. And the way that she was able to do that was on the back of the press. So she actually was a contributing author for Forbes and a few other outlets. That's where a lot of her clients found her. And she essentially she was getting inbound requests to speak versus pitching outbound. I recommend you do a little bit of both. So one, with these corporate audiences, you want to make sure that you are the go-to choice, and that when they Google you, it lines up with what they say, what you say to them. So whenever you're going to consistently invite them to work with you. And I think inviting them is better than just cold pitching them. So instead of just sending out a pitch email like everyone else, I recommend you host like CEO roundtables or executive roundtables and things of that nature. And then you invite them to work with you. The way that you do that, you can use, like we've used landing pages and taken corporate clients through sales funnels where after they sign up, they get another email or they get a video of me speaking. Instead of me just sending them a message on LinkedIn, I send them a Loom video or I send them a voice note talking about what I do. I make the relationship really personal. And every week I have goals for how many personal connections I want to actually make. For their birthday, I'm sending them something in the mail. Our touch points and the way that we are connecting with these folks is different based on, one, the times are a little bit different with COVID. So you have to actually ask people affirmatively for their mailing addresses versus surprising them, which is what I used to do. Is like I'd send them an email and then I would send a gift to their office after we spoke. I also send them like my book with sections highlighted that they should be reading and already pre-tagged. If I find out they've done something or they've been in a particular, if they've been featured somewhere, then I'll send them something for that. So you want to think through, how are you going to get their attention? And one of my clients loves that we send holiday gifts, like custom holiday gifts. And the tin can is designed by our graphics department and it's a note to them on it, signed by me. So there's all types of ways you can do that to keep them front of mind. But the cute stuff that we do, like the tin cans and the videos and all of that, comes after we've proven to them that we are the person to teach them and take them through a particular transformation. So there's so many ways that you can actually market to your ideal audience, and you shouldn't be afraid. One of the mistakes that I see people make is they do everything one way. So like they're very committed to email. They only send emails. That's it. They don't really invite them to experiences. And before COVID happened, we were planning to host our first CEO breakfast at like the Peninsula. So really nice hotel in Chicago. And we were going to travel and do it in different cities. So hosting things at very lush places is a great way to go. Also inviting out industry leaders. There's all these things you can do to set yourself apart. But if you notice, the prevailing thing that I like to do is to make them come to me, because then I'm not competing against every other speaker. And I'm showing them that, one, I'm connected in the industry, and two, what I'm hosting is an experience for them, whether they work with me or not. So then I become a resource, because if at my event you meet your new bestie or you meet your new friend or colleague in the industry, or you get to see someone you haven't seen in a while, that's great. You can also add exclusivity to it. So we only have 10 invites that we give out per quarter for this particular event. It's a private fireside chat with so-and-so. I'm hosting it, and then I'm the one hosting the event. I'm the one asking or interviewing the guest speaker that I have to come. So there's all these different things that you can do to invite them to work with you and experience you, but you want to have a strategy written down for how you're going to do it. For our Speaker Ready Cash Academy students, we just had our 2021 planning session, and we talked about our content plan, which will help attract these people to us. But we also talked about events that we're going to hold for corporate clients for the year. So it does need to be strategic. It does need to be written out. It does need to be something that you can commit to and stick to. And if you did nothing last year to attract corporate clients, maybe this year you just focus on doing one thing versus a lot of different things. Because what I see is that if you fail on this multi-pronged, very long, drawn out marketing strategy, you may get discouraged because you're like, oh, this is too much for me to take on. And last year I did absolutely nothing. So taking, small incremental action is absolutely better than not taking action at all. So you really want to think about your capacity and what will allow you to focus and get the best results. If all you can do is put out consistent, amazing content, speaking directly to that corporate audience, that's going to be important too. But you want to know who that person is, what's their job title, and what keeps them up at night. Something else we're doing in the Academy Q1 is market research. So we have a market research plan. Folks in the Academy get my emails that I use when I'm doing market research, because it seems old school and I don't hear a lot of people talk about it. And on the corporate side, market research looks like actually talking to the people who have the same job titles as your ideal client, and finding out, getting their feedback on your pricing, on your title, on a variety of different things. And there's actually a way that I get people to give me my time that's not super annoying to them, because everyone has their own objectives and their own things to do. But hopefully that helps with how I define speaking, because there's lots of different ways to do it. There's not one way that's right or wrong. That's just the way that I teach. And that's the way that's been fruitful and productive for me. Other people do different things. I also like to make the most amount of money by doing the least amount of output. So I prefer not not to speak for free all the time and have to always do all that other stuff. That's just the way I found that it works for me. I think there's room to do both though. Okay. Clubhouse. I guess in this sense, you all are like picking my brain. You're asking me questions. But for me, my audio recorder is going to edit this and put this on my podcast. I have to do this podcast whether I was here or not. So for me, it's like, all right, cool. This is dual purposeful because I have to do this work. And I think it's the same thing with a corporation. If you're going to speak for free, it needs to be at your own event where they're coming to you, where you're getting their email. And on the front end, there are specific questions you're going to ask them to find out who are the leads, who are the hot leads that you're going to want to speak to even more during your presentation, because they've already self-selected and raised their hand and said, hey, one, I'm raising my hand to be at your event, but two, I'm also interested in what you do. So that's very important. Like I'm meeting with someone who's head of procurement at a large food retailer, and I'm doing it because I want them to come and be a part of my program. She's not going to be able to pick my brain, but we are going to be able to build a relationship. So a part of it is, how do you determine who is, I don't know if it's like worth, right? I hate that word worth, but when you spend time with someone, are you going to spend time or are you going to invest time? So who am I going to invest time with and who am I going to spend time with? I spend time with my family. I don't have to get anything back from that. It doesn't matter. Me and my husband, we could spend time together all day. I could spend time with my baby all day. She doesn't have to give me anything back. But as it relates to my business, I'm not just spending time with people. I want to invest time with people because I have a family that if I'm spending time with them, I'm not spending, like if I'm wasting time with someone else, I'm not spending time with my family. So I agree with not doing free work. I'm glad Tiffany Haddish called out the Grammys. I'm glad that, women are getting more clear about, hey, I'm not here to do free work. And I think the more valuable you see your voice as, because every time I show up in a room, I'm adding value. Every time I show up on a call, I'm adding value. Every time I show up, I'm adding value. That means I can't just cast my pearls among swine. Like it has to be that I am in a place where I am also getting something out of that deal. And that's fine. I think that for a long time we were afraid to say I have to get something out of this. And I think people think that that's weird. You just want to give. But at the end of the day, we as Black women, I believe, have given so much, whether we gave another thing in our life. So I'm not about that life. I'm going to invest my time with people who we can collaborate to really do some good in the world and make some real changes in the world. So I'm all about not wasting time in 2021, not doing free work. Those are all good with me. But one of the things that I'll say, the things that we covered earlier, is that number one, you want to go from this is possible, I can get paid to speak, it's possible theoretically, to it's possible for me. And then you want to position yourself to actually land those paid speaking engagements. So after you're able to do that, you're going to be well on your way to booking paid engagements after you're well positioned. That's going to be the big thing, making sure that you're positioned for it. So if you do have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, we're going to close out the room. But I appreciate those of you that came up already and asked your questions. And for those that are just getting started and you're interested in going to the next level in speaking, feel free to click the link on my Instagram bio and ask me. Feel free to click the link on my Instagram bio and apply to my private training for speakers. I believe it says, so if you click the link in my Instagram bio, it says apply to my private training for speakers. That's exactly what it says. So just click that. It'll allow you to apply for my program for speakers, where we teach you how to build out your 5- and 6-figure corporate offer, which you're going to need. Because I asked this question, if someone were to come, if the CEO of Pepsi were to stand next to you in the grocery store line and he was like, all right, cool. I overheard you talk about the fact that you're a speaker or you own this business. Send me your proposal. Would you have it? Would you have it ready to go? And would you know how to shepherd that relationship from inception all the way to post sale? So after the speech is over, what do you do? Because there is still room for you to do work with a client after the sale is made. And I'll tell you all, I had a client that due to the pandemic had to shut down. We had to pause the engagement, but we're still under contract. And because I kept in contact with them, because I sent the holiday gift, because I checked in, I made sure they were okay, checked on the students. Now we're in talks of quadrupling the original contract's value. So I haven't even done the first part of the contract, but just because we stayed in touch, we're going to quadruple the contract's value. And he's interested in hearing from other speakers that I train. So because I do a lot of engagements, a lot of my clients will ask, do I have other speakers that do certain other things? And I share those relationships and I share those opportunities with folks in the academy. I just shared a paid engagement last week with people in the academy. So It sounds like you're asking, and let me just make sure this is clear. So it sounds like your question is one, should I be represented by an agent or an agency of some sort? And then two, should I invest in learning the speaking business with a coach, or is it learning how to speak? Are they approaching you to join their speaking coaching program, or is it more like the techniques of speaking? So to the first point, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do number one. So I wouldn't pay an agency to represent me. That said, I have been approached by several agencies, and I have gone without a speakers bureau because, and I have an episode on my podcast about speakers bureaus that I think you should for sure check out. And I think it literally in the title says speakers bureau, but one, I wouldn't pay to be represented by anyone. And the reason for that is I don't understand that model. All of my friends who have agents, they don't pay. The agent helps them to get engagements. The only reason I haven't gone with a bureau, and I have thought about I haven't gone with a bureau as of yet because the ones that I've been approached by want exclusivity, meaning I can't get my own engagements. And if I do, I have to give them 30 to 40%, even of what I bring in on my own without them. So that's given me a little bit of pause. And because of my business model, like if I'm landing a $50,000 engagement, giving someone 30% of that is a lot steeper than me just paying for someone to do the outreach for me. That said, there may come a time, and I'm almost at the point where for the college market, I don't want to do the outreach. So I could sign with a bureau that's approached me to do all of my college bookings, but I could still keep 100% of all of my corporate bookings. So that is one of the arrangements. In neither case, though, will I be paying them. They basically work on commission. The other agent that has wanted me to sign with her is out of Canada. So I don't do a lot of work in Canada. She has a lot of relationships in Canada. She likes what I do. She wants me to start doing more engagements in Canada. And I was like, okay, well, I don't do work in Canada. So I am going to have a meeting with her, and I may sign on with her as an agent in Canada, but it would be a non-exclusive deal. So, but keeping that in mind, when you work with an agent, like my rate is like, if I'm doing a one-off engagement, it's $7,500 to $10,000, depending on what I'm doing. And if I get an agent, she may give me something in Canada, but it'll be for $5,500. So we have to consider, is that going to, will it play out? So it's really a numbers game for me in terms of agencies, but never am I paying them. That's just not what's happening. If you're going to pay someone to help you get engagements, you should pay. I would recommend that you hire a coach, through the Speak Your Way to Cash Academy program that we have. We give them templates and everything because we work with people who are busy. And so they can give those templates to their administrator, and that administrator can just send those out. So they may pay an administrator, whatever, I don't know, $10-15 an hour, 5 hours a week to send those out every single week so that they're building a rapport with people and they're getting their emails out there, but they're not going to pay an agent. Now, the reason a lot of agencies are switching to getting paid is because it's a ton of work. So I have heard of some speaker marketing agencies, but what they do is a little bit deeper than just pitching you and getting you engagements. They're going to develop your marketing assets. They're going to develop your website. They're going to market you. They're going to put out flyers. They're going to email out things. And to be honest, these are all things that you can do yourself, but it takes a lot of time. And so we talked about marketing a little bit earlier. All of that stuff requires a lot of time. Every time we do an event for a corporate audience, and I'm developing out that event, and I'm developing out those assets, and I'm developing out, we have custom wrapping paper that just came in the mail. So we're sending out Christmas gifts. We're wrapping them in our custom paper. All of it, there's millions of steps to all of this stuff. Sending out Christmas gifts with custom paper with our logo on it with handwritten notes requires 50 steps. And so my administrator handles it, and we have an SOP that walks through all the things that we have to do. But every time we do one event, we have to do 30 steps. And so the reason why some of these speaker marketing companies, which are different than you paying an agency, the reason they charge is because it's just a lot of work, and a lot of them charge a really good amount of money. But the speakers that they're targeting are those speakers that are already making multi-6 or 7 figures, and they don't want to have to deal with all of the moving pieces. They just want to show up. So I have heard of that. I'm not saying it's a scam or anything, but for me, at this point, I'm pretty much bringing everything in-house. And then the great thing is, once you get a relationship with a client, it's for you to lose. So I have, I'm speaking to a big pharmaceutical company this afternoon, and I've already foreshadowed to them like, all right, cool. After I do this engagement, we're going to talk next week before Christmas, and then we're going to talk about next steps. So the way that I give that presentation is in such a way that I'm getting referrals during the entire presentation. And I use those referrals to have a follow-up conversation with the client so that we can develop the next step in our process. But so number one, I wouldn't do. Number two, becoming a certified speaker. So the reason this is valuable and the reason I've seen people like it is because they can take someone else's speech, someone else's method, someone else's stuff, and then they can give it to their own clients and they can get trained in the art of public speaking. So there's that. I'm not, would I do that? I think the problem with that is you're not putting your own proprietary stuff out there. You're using someone else's. And so if the relationship goes south for whatever reason, or if the relationship goes really, really well, when they refer you, what are they going to say? They're going to say, oh, and I'm just using this as an example, Avery's a John Maxwell certified speaker. Okay, well, when they refer you as a John Maxwell certified speaker and their referral Googles it, who's going to come up? John Maxwell and all other John Maxwell certified speakers. So that puts you at a disadvantage now because they're not able to Google your proprietary method. Whereas a client referred me today for a speech, and for the speech that I'm giving today, it was a referral. And they were like, yeah, she does this speech called the Love Method of Communication. So when they Google it, the Love Framework, that's our proprietary framework. They're not going to find another speaker that can give my proprietary Love Framework or my trademark, like the Currency of Confidence. I own the trademark for that too. So they're not going to find another speaker that can give the speech, the Currency of Confidence. And if you see one, I'm suing them, because that's mine. But that means that I'm not a commodity. So they're not going to be able to price compare between me and everyone else who gives the Currency of Confidence. So that is the only negative that I see with it. But if you just want to speak and you don't have your own framework to teach, then that's not a bad way to go. And it can help give you the confidence to pitch on a high level because people are familiar with John Maxwell. In terms of coaching, if you want to go further faster, that's what you do. But like we have the Speak Your Way to Cash Academy, a part of that program is speech delivery, both on the customer service side and actually delivering the speech. So the program covers both sales, how are you going to market yourself in the market? Like, how are you going to get these corporate clients to pay attention to you? What's going to make you stand out? How are you going to sell them? What are the emails that you need to send out? What are the gifting strategies you can use? Where are you going to invite them to? What types of events attract and convert clients from just like them attending your event to being your client? So that one program covers all of that, and it's group coaching. So you meet other people in the speaking world. And what I've seen in the group already, because a lot of them attended my Speak Your Way to Cash live event, is they've developed relationships and partnerships. So like they may host a corporate event together and one person covers, mental health because it's a few therapists in the group, and the next person covers whatever their proprietary framework is, maybe leadership and the relationship between leadership and mental health. So I think group coaching is the way to go because you actually develop relationships with other people going through it, and you can pull on the brain trust, which is why I switched from just doing one-on-one to having a group coaching program. So if you're interested in that, you can click the link in my bio and apply to the academy, which may be a good way to go. But hopefully that answers your question on whether or not you should be paying to get certified and then also paying for an agent to represent you. A big thing I want you all to remember is I give people, things to think about, frameworks, swipe copy from my experience in the marketplace. I've negotiated. Last week, we closed a multi-six-figure licensing deal on behalf of a client. So I've handled the speaking side from me being an attorney, negotiating those large licensing deals, me being a speaker, landing them myself and helping clients land them. And what I'll say is these companies are going to do what you ask them to do. I think the other mental shift is we think companies have it all together and they don't. So they don't know when working with speakers, they're open to signing your contract. They're open to going through your process. They're going to book on your calendar link. They're going to wait for you to tell them all of the steps of the process. So if you're not careful, you'll get caught up like, oh, this is such a big company. There's no way they don't know how to do this, or there's no way they'll hire me to do that. They will hire you to do these things. And they're literally looking for you to guide them through your process because this is something that you do. So the biggest thing that I want you all to take away from this discussion today is like, you set the tone for your corporate clients. You're going to tell them what they need. You're going to tell them how to work with you. You're going to tell them what steps they should be taking from A to Z. And what that means is you have to know, because if you know, you're not going to have clients saying like, oh, well, let me see 50 references or let me see this and let me see that. And I'll tell you, in my years doing this, I've had one client that wanted, now this is outside of if you're doing a formal proposal, like you're going through an RFP process with the government or with a company that has a bid process, like big nonprofits. So I went through a bid process for a contract, but it was like valued at $900,000. So outside of like that, if you're in the lower range, like 20, 30, 50, 100, like that type of stuff, if you have all of your stuff in order, it doesn't really matter if you've never done it before. They may never ask, So that's why I think coaching and all that is important, because it helps you get the assets together that you need in order to go in confidently and guide them through a process. Because when you have all of your stuff in order, they're looking at you. They're like, yeah, I'll sign your contract. Where is it? Or what's the next step in the process? And the line that I love using is like, my clients typically, because they want to know, what do other people in our industry do? So if you've worked with one or two other people in their industry or other corporate clients generally, you can say, what is standard for you, for your clients? And so you really want to become that trusted advisor through the process, but they're not looking for you to know every single thing. They're just looking for you to know what you tell them you know. You know what I mean? So don't think that you have to be, you need like a, neurology degree or something. You don't need all that. I'm actually training a group of scientists and doctors today. I don't even remember my grades in science. They're all super duper educated. I have a law degree. I own a law firm, but these folks are like they literally educate the people I'm training, educate doctors on the medicines that their company creates. And they all, to work in this particular department, they all need masters of sciences or PhDs or MDs. Like, it's a requirement. They're all super, super smart. And I'm coming in talking about communication. So I just don't want you all to be intimidated by these big companies. And another thing that I say all the time is, you're not pitching a company, you're pitching a person. You're not pitching Pepsi, you're pitching Sarah, who's the director of marketing at Pepsi, or who's the director of logistics or director of supply chain. You're pitching a person. So don't be afraid to pitch a person, to talk to a person. One of the people who hires all the vendors globally for Whole Foods wanted to reach out and connect with me, because she was like, hey, you look ambitious. I like having ambitious people on our list of approved vendors. I want to talk to you. And that all started from me just reaching out to her on LinkedIn. I have a whole LinkedIn thing that I do, but literally we're talking this week about that. And then that relationship will then transfer to the folks that I train and in my academy, because the more I know about the market, the more relationships I develop, the better off I am, and the better off everyone that I coach is as well. So you want to make sure when you're looking at coaches and you're looking at people, how is their language? Who are they talking to? What conversations are they having? Because Clubhouse is great and these rooms are all amazing, and social media, I think, can make us think that, everything is B2C. But if you want to get in corporate spaces, there is a language that corporations are comfortable with. And most corporations are not trying to be 100%, like, they don't always want to have conversations that are outside of that. Not necessarily because that individual isn't open-minded, but because they know the process that you're going to have to go through and the approvals that you're going to have to go through in order to land them as a client. So yeah, be creative, but you want to make sure that that person knows the system. Do they come from corporate? Do they have experience? Do they understand how departments work? Because if you don't, you can very well leave a whole lot of money on the table. And not all companies are struggling right now. So there's a difference in industry too. So there's definitely money out there. I want you all to stay encouraged. I love Clubhouse. I think it's a great app. I learned so much from it, just, being on and being in different rooms. So I appreciate you all dropping by. Tomorrow at 6 a.m., I will be on here live again. And tomorrow's conversation is stop applying to speak and do this instead. So we'll be talking about all of those requests for speakers and applying to speak and what you should be doing instead. So hopefully, if you're listening to this on the podcast, you stay tuned for the next episode. If you're joining me live, make sure you set your alarm, and then everyone should click my picture and then go to, I think there's like a little, so click my picture, and then right next to that picture, click that alarm button next to following, and then change it from sometimes to always. That way you're notified when I go live. Make sure you follow other people in the room. And if you are a speaker looking to take it to the next level, you don't want to start from the bottom and work your way up. You want to start from the top and help people up from the bottom. Then you should click the link in my Instagram bio and apply to attend our private training. It's so much gold in there. And let me know what you think. If you enjoyed this convo, feel free to shoot me a DM. I try to respond to those things at least once a day. And I'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks so much for joining.
All right. Wasn't that interview amazing? If you're anything like me, you have pages full of notes. But here's the thing. Before you head out, I want you to go to facebook.com and join the Speak Your Way to Cash Facebook group. That is where I am. That's where a ton of other speakers are, a ton of other people who listen to the show. We all congregate there and chat. and it's 100% free. Now, if you're ready to take your speaking career to the next level, I have 2 ways for you to do that. One, you can go to ashleynicolekirkwood.com/SYWTC live replay and pick up the live replay. That training is 7 modules, chock full of information. It's crazy. Go over there, read all about it. Or if you want a more personal experience, you already know that you want to be a speaker. You're ready to fully commit and you want someone to walk you through it and save you tons of time Googling and doing it on your own, then book a VIP day with me. You can go to ashleynicolekirkwood.com, scroll down until you see the VIP day section and get more information on that there. All right. Thank you guys again for watching. Please do not forget to leave us a review. That is how we keep this train rolling and get some of the best speakers in the world to get on this show. So please, please, please leave a review. Shoot me a message on Facebook or Instagram, and Facebook in the Speaker Way to Cash group, Instagram at the Ashley Nicole Show. And I'd be more than happy to chat with you and say hi. All right, y'all have an awesome, awesome day.